Good morning and welcome to a little home practice. My name is Dr. Marina Mangano. I'm a chiropractor and yoga teacher, and today we're going to be going over what I call the Mojzi flow. So this is going to be a little snip of the work of Ludmila Mojzisova, which I will shorten to Mojzi for us all. She's a Ukrainian physiotherapist. She was a Ukrainian physiotherapist that was a vital component of the School of Prague Rehabilitation in Czech Republic. So during her time there, she devoted much of her career to helping women with fertility issues and looking at both a little bit of the chemical issues, but more structural issues that was preventing women from either conceiving, maintaining a pregnancy, having a challenging labor, able to deliver vaginally or not, and then actually the same type of material would help during the postpartum recovery. So we're going to be going over the 10 major poses of the Mojzisova flow today. It will seem a little yoga-esque to you. There's a lot more of like a rehab component, some contracting, relaxing. To categorize everything, I would say the first goal is to release tension and stagnation in areas of the body that are too stuck, meaning in the pelvis, the sacrum, the triangle bone in the back of your pelvis. The sacrum has to be able to move to allow a pumping mechanism of air and blood flow into the reproductive system so that you can regulate appropriately, you can have a regular cycle. It isn't as painful of a cycle when all the organs and the tissues are working together and receiving the right nutrients to give you that nice cyclic pattern. And then once pregnancy occurs, the same type of stagnations, the same issues build tension, especially as you begin to grow and get closer towards labor. Those things are just going to perpetuate as your body and your gravity shifts around. So these poses are designed to help remove some of those locked barriers within the sacrum, the pelvis, and the rib cage as well. A lot of our pumping and our breathing all stems from the diaphragm as well as the respiratory system. So we're going to be syncing the upper body with the lower body. And after we've unlocked these things, the next stage of these exercises is to mobilize them, to create repetitive movements that help the body find new barriers to feel safe as you do change, either if you're doing in vitro, working towards conception, or you're actually in the prenatal section of your motherhood journey. You're going to have to find out who you are along every part of the step, every stage. So these mobility exercises will give you those parameters. And then all in all, at the end, the same exercises can be catered towards strengthening. So kind of the glue to help stick you and these opened new patterns that we've found to keep them there and to allow you to feel strong in a safe way throughout the entire pregnancy. Or like I said, using them as more of your original day one postpartum care. So you really don't need anything. I have a mat down just because it makes me feel like I am having an intentional moment to myself and my body. Some people prefer to use a block with this practice, but really everything should be very comfortable. It can be dialed back to just awareness. It can be dialed up to strengthening. So you monitor yourself as we continue. Okay, so starting first and foremost, I'll just have everyone lie on the back, and I'm going to be practicing and talking as we go. Looking into our original poses, remember we're trying to get things that feel stuck, unstuck. So we have to open up some doorways within ourselves. Laying here right away, I'm going to have you feel if your rib cage really popped off the mat, there may be a gap underneath of you. Instead of just shoving that down and creating a lot of load in the low back, I'm going to have you push through your heels very gently, just enough to clear the hips off the mat. Tuck your tailbone underneath, like a dog tucking its tail between its legs. And then one bone at a time is going to round, like the bra line is going to slouch, 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 slouch. And then eventually the entire spine will lay back down on the mat. But you should feel taller. We're trying to build awareness in the back body as well as spinal length. So before you do any of these exercises, go into that little bridge, lengthen and load as you come back down to the ground. The first exercise is just an awareness scan, so a 3-part breath. 3 parts meaning we have the first part of your inhale, will be focused on, can you expand low through the low abdomen? So a lot of us are really comfortable breathing very high, but we don't know how to share that pressure, share that air low. So the inhale will look like a low breath, and then the middle section will rise, and then underneath the chest, the width of the chest will be the third part of it. Yes, it's rising, but it's also expanding broad. And relax. So thinking about filling up the low pant line first with air, you can use your fingers to push here. Push your hands away as you inhale. Second part. Third part. And then exhale. Do this a few times until you kind of find, if you're a little tighter on the left, but you can expand on the right, how can you help your body find open pockets to evenly expand, and not just forward, but also to the sides, and you stay connected to the mat the entire time. So there's almost that low back expansion as you inhale, inhale, inhale. And then once you get good at that inhale, we add the exhale. It's just the same three parts, but in reverse. So the chest decreases first, and there's a little kind of a Kegel squeeze at the end with your glutes to get any last air out. And that's helpful because now you feel what really tight is. Now you can immediately relax that as you inhale and start again. Inhale and breathe low into the pelvis. So this kind of flowing meditative scan, it will seem very robotic in the beginning, but once you get the hang of it, then it becomes just like intention building, and gives you these windows of awareness of, wow, it's really, really tight. I cinch my waist here. I don't have a lot of room to expand. Your body's going to make a lot of changes during pregnancy, and especially within the width of your cage. So we really are helping ourselves get full oxygenation, and you can kind of see this like massaging flow that happens when you do the three-part breath. So in theory, as we really mobilize our organs, we're massaging them, we're helping them detoxify faster, we're helping them gain good blood flow and function more appropriately. This is what continues to balance and normalize. Just, if you're not pregnant, having your cycle, normalizing a cycle can come from some of this work. That's why we say it's preconception work. Good. So after that three-part scan, that first exercise, the next thing we're going to notice to unstick very stuck areas is keeping that little, maybe reset, do a little bit of that tailbone tuck again, roll the hips down, and then we're going to lift one knee into the sky at a time. It will look similar to something called a dead bug, but we're not ready to strengthen core yet. This is still an unlocking mechanism. So taking your hands just about 2 inches below the knees on the shins, you're just going to use your arms, kind of like a rocking and a rolling, but not the full coming up like in yoga, staying on the mat. And as you're using more arms than legs, you may notice that your spine feels really connected at your tailbone, and then there's kind of this like flat brick in the sacrum before you feel your spine bending again. So we want to get to a point where we feel like each bone in the spine can open and stretch. So if you're feeling kind of choppy or floppy in this is a great time to work on this practice. So once you've done this little test, the actual unlocking is using your shins to kick up into your hands, and the hands are going to resist. So I'm pushing straight to the sky, hands are pulling back down, and this isn't because I'm trying to bring my knees to my chest. It's actually because I want this long bone to smash into the ground. So it sounds like a more strong word, but really the more I kick up and resist, my sacrum will lower and push into the ground. It'll feel like an opening. So it's safe to do at any stage of your pregnancy. You're just gently kicking into the shins, hands are resisting, and you feel your tailbone drop into the mat. Once you're there, fill up with belly breath, but don't let go of your kick. Keep the kick, but lose the belly breath. One more time, inhale through the belly. Keep the kick, exhale through the belly. relax your kick, and go ahead and use the arms to pull. Maybe doing this about 2 or 3 sets, so that kick with air about 2 or 3 times. And then once you relax, you get to kind of audit if you are loosening up already. So those are our first 2 unlocking exercises. The next will be actually face down. So flipping over, we need to reduce some of the trigger points in the pelvic floor or in the inner thighs. What this will maintain is a little bit of like a twisted posture if certain muscles are pulling you one side or the other. And especially as you get closer to labor, we want to make sure your pelvis is going to open evenly instead of one side being a little bit more isolated. So the first is going to be this inner thigh type of stretch. You're going to bring this knee up as high as you can. And the bigger you get with your pregnancy, you may need to be, up a little bit higher or on a pillow. But for now, especially in the preconception stage, getting this frog leg up as high as you can and starting to poke around a little bit in the inner thigh and groin. And you'll find some really tight areas, those kind of trigger points, those knots. And then that's how you know what side you may need to work on more so than the other, something that's most uncomfortable. What we're going to do is walk all the way up towards the glute, and you'll feel your sitting bone. If you were sitting on a chair, it's the 2 bones that get tired first from all that pressure. And once you have that ledge, you're going to have your hands go to the inside of the ledge. So fingers are going to get a little handsy here. You're going to grab the inside of that ledge, and then you're going to use your knee to slide away from you. So if you feel like you started too far away, pull your knee back into you, grab the inside of that ledge, hold on tightly, take a big belly breath, exhale, but don't let go of your hand. Traction your knee away from you as your fingers keep taut. You'll feel a lot of pressure. I want you to inhale low into the pelvic floor against that stretch of your fingers. And then exhale, relax. Bring that knee back in a little short. Find the inner ledge of the pelvic floor. So you're on the instep of that sitting bone. I'm going to grab again, find a new trigger point. And you don't need to know the anatomy here. You don't need to be any type of medical professional. This is just putting your fingers on something that's sore. You're not going to trigger any reaction in your cervix. That's very safe because you are monitoring your pressure. And you're working on external muscles. These are not deep internal, anything within your womb. So holding one more time, I found a nice trigger point. I'm going to take a big breath in. Exhale. Slide that knee away from me so you'll get lower to the ground. Hold on with your fingers. Don't let go, but breathe into that new stretch now. And exhale. So this inner thigh stretch you'll do as many times as you feel like you're still getting some progress, some length out of it. It's difficult when you find something uncomfortable to send your air there. If you feel like you're holding a trigger point but breathing high, it's not going to get that low expansive stretch that we want. So really channel your air low into the pelvic floor. Obviously, we do this on both sides. The second kind of contract and relax exercise, we're trying to fatigue out muscles, then turning them off and allowing them through the next set of this flow to train them how to appropriately fire. The next one is a double hand grab. I'm going to do it with one hand just so it's easier to see right now. But this is grabbing the inside of the full glute. So on the stomach, which you probably wouldn't be able to do at a certain level of pregnancy, you're going to come all the way underneath to find those same sitting bones. The sitting bones are the most bony protuberance. Your fingers are going to come inside the cheeks, inside the bones, grab the ledge of the bones, and then you're going to tighten the pelvic floor. Not a Kegel like if you wanted to stop peeing. This is as if your knees, you could rotate your knees in and out. Go ahead and turn the knees so far inward that your toes point inward. So your heels will roll out, you grab the ledge, and then you can gently turn your knees back down into the ground. Your heels will come up, and you can feel the pelvic floor kind of closing. You're going to hold that close for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Low belly breath in. Exhale, pull the hands apart. Stay there. Inhale into the stretch. And then relax, let go. So with this stretch, essentially we're taking the inside of the pelvis and we're opening it and then staying there, and that's when you send your air to expand and put pressure on it. If you struggle with any type of gentle prolapse or incontinence, it may make you feel nervous like you're going to pee, but this is actually the way to train to stabilize those things. So you have those 2 contract and relax exercises. The next one, while we're face down, is going to be a little bit more spinal, chiropractic, tedious work that I love. It will look similar to a cat-cow that you've done in yoga, but it has a very specific focus. So, on your hands and knees, knees about hip width distance. Everybody who does cat-cow traditionally just kind of knows their flow. But if you can tell, there's not a lot of movement happening in this part of my back. So all my bend is coming from high and then the hips. There's really not a lot of life happening through here. And many women, this is where we get stuck in our sacrum. This is where we have very painful back labor, or unfortunately through some miscarriage process, a lot of that pain is going to localize where you are most locked. So we want to get you more open to share that wealth into the front of you where the contractions need to occur. So to practice this, first and foremost, just the tailbone is going to tuck under. You may not feel like you have a lot more room to go, but once that's tucked, push the knees down into the ground with the shins, and you can see I found a little extra range to start to bend, and then relax. Good. Try that tailbone tuck, push the knees just a few times. Nothing is happening high, it's just all tailbone, because the full exercise is only the tailbone moves. Once you found your full range, then you start to inhale on top of it into your cat. One bone at a time curls into this full motion. Push the hands down, pull the knees toward you, big breath in. And then before anything moves, the mid back starts to drop. You look forward, one bone at a time starts to drop into your cow. So it takes a lot of talking to explain this, so take your time. Eventually, the tailbone will always move before you inhale. Then every bone will bend into cat as you finish the inhale. Before you exhale, let the chest start to drop. Then every bone finishes the exhale. Once you're in this dead exhale where there's no air, your pelvic floor should be very relaxed, almost open feeling. Because then right away we know what open feels like. We can start by closing it, pushing through the knees, tuck the tailbone first, start your inhale. Push the knees, traction them forward, drop the chest, look forward as you start your exhale. Relax the pelvic floor. You can go through this as many times as possible. It should feel very choppy, segmental, kind of robotic. And the last position, pose for this position is going to be bringing your knees together. In the same tabletop position, the feet will touch, and you're going to clear the ground just gently. Not super high, but just a little bit of a gentle clearance. We're now creating some side body movement in that same one bone at a time concept. So hands are under shoulders, knees are together, clear the ground. You'll notice if your belly button is really dropped, you're not going to get the benefit of this stretch. So tuck that tailbone, lengthen the spine, not arched, just tall and neutral. And then let your feet start to jut out to the right. You'll notice your hips will buckle off to the left. Let the rest of your spine, one bone at a time, follow that left direction. Your ribs will slide to the left. The last thing is your head will kind of peek back to look at your feet to the right. Stay here, take some wide, broad breaths, allowing that whole left side body to stretch. Bring the feet back to neutral, reset if you've lost that nice neutral spine. Let the feet shoot to the left. Your hips will go to the right. Each rib will go to the right. Then finally the head will peek back and look to the left at your feet. After you've done a longer version of this, one on both sides with a couple breaths, then you could do one breath per movement and make it a little bit more of a flow, but take your time on the first one per side. Wonderful. All right, while we are here, we're going to use the right foot to step up to the outside of your hand, moving on. In this kind of tripod runner's lunge, I'm going to make sure you have the opportunity to, if your belly button's really dropped, bringing it back and up. Long shoulders away from your hips, using the full foot pressure. Let's see if you can find that 3-part breath. So, low pelvic floor inhale, higher abdomen inhale, wide high chest underarm inhale. And then you would exhale in reverse. High shoulders, rib cage drops, pelvic floor empties and kind of squeezes at the end. Release, open the pelvic floor. Continue your 3-part inhale, 3-part exhale. You'll feel yourself opening in the hamstring as you start to release and get more comfortable. If this right knee is really too far forward, pull it back in space. You may find more connection with your pelvic floor. Leave the left hand down and just do a gentle opening towards the sky. You don't need to go all the way up. The elbow can stay bent. But see if you can find your 3-part breath in this rotation. And then release. Start to walk your hands up to tented fingertips. I'm going to have you bring both hands to the sacrum. And in this posture, you're going to start to kind of push through the back shin, push the foot down, open yourself nice and slow as you inhale. Let the hips drop back into space, lower as you exhale. Push through the front foot. Exhale, lower. Both hands come down. Take the foot out. Repeat on the other side. So I'll do this side very quickly, just for my own practice here. Pushing through the knee, make sure. 3-part breath. This side is looser for me today, but I am going to still complete this twist. See if I can find my 3-part breath. Slow return. Support my sacrum. Make sure I'm not arched in the belly button. Pulling tall, neutral spine. Push through the front foot and the back foot. Inhale, come up. Exhale, lower hips back in space. Push through the shin. Exhale, lower. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to flip back around now to your back. So facing the sky. We're kind of moving into this mobility part of the Mojzi flow. So working now on finding some of the pelvic floor a little bit in a supine position. So remember, anytime you're on your back and you're going to start these exercises, we try not to start compressed. So find that nice heel press, lift the hips up, tuck the tailbone, and then one bone at a time will come down to the mat. I already feel a little taller. My shoulder blades can walk down and not feel cinched in my neck. And now we're going to start to find a new version of a pelvic floor contraction that may get you away from this idea of learning to Kegel. A Kegel is a kind of extreme awareness exercise, but it's not realistic for you to maintain throughout a long period of time. That's why if you are tight all day holding a Kegel, but then you sneeze, cough, or jump, it's already exhausted. It can't hold that force. So that's why we have a little incontinence. So this type of pelvic floor awareness it's recommended I use a high note. So if you like to sing, this will be great. But if you don't like to sing, don't worry about feeling silly. You're just going to hum a high note in your head. And And every time you hit that little note, you may notice just a really gentle uplift of the pelvic floor that will coincide with the note. So when that happens, it just gives you an awareness of like, oh, okay, that's activating the pelvic floor, but I'm not contracting everything. I'm just allowing it to wake up and converse. So I call this an audit. The first contraction is that pelvic floor lift. The second contraction then is a little bit of an anterior abdomen is going to come forward and meet your hand. So just waking up the low abdomen, pushing into your hand, almost like if you were going to push a stroller, you would have to put force forward. Some people describe it as like if you were going to get hit in the stomach, you wouldn't suck in, you would brace to meet it. That's a little extreme. We just want half of that type of effort. So find your high note in your head, hold that little note, that contraction, and then the second part of the box, you've contracted here. Now let the front of your abdomen start to go forward. So push up here. You can use your fingers to find it. Tap, tap, tap if you can't find it. Hold that pressure. Can you hold both of those two contractions at the same time? Because now we're going to take a low belly breath. They're going to put force down into them. Don't lose them, don't lose them, don't lose them. Hold all that air. Hold that air for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everything relaxes. So reset. Use your feet so your tailbone is tucked. Hit that high note. Find the pelvic floor. That's the first lift. Hold that lift. Second lift is the abdomen pushes forward. Now you've got two parts of a box. Don't lose them. Can you send a super big low belly breath into that space? Don't lose them, don't lose them. Hold those contractions. You may feel shaky, shaky, shaky. Everything relaxes, let go. So this audit is something you can do in every one of these poses. You can do them in the lunge. You can do them in the cat-cow kind of posture. When you lose contact with your pelvic floor, try that little high note. And you should feel a little life happening in the pelvic floor. If you have struggled with a little bit of hemorrhoids or some constipation, more posterior pelvic floor issues, we recommend you do this same audit exercise, just a little lifted. So you could be up on a block, relaxing, or just gently clear the floor. You don't have to be in a full yoga bridge. Come low, way lower than that. Just clear the glutes off the floor using the feet. Try to find that contraction. Push the abdomen. Hold those two. Big belly breath in. Exhale. Release. So you have two versions of that audit check in that posture. Okay, and the last thing here we're going to be doing in this 10-step flow is a full length contraction, core contraction for strengthening and lengthening. You've already learned this little double audit now, and we're going to use it, but just with full legs and then even getting the arms involved. Make sure your heels are together. You're pushing your feet long, which will make your contraction in your quads, and it should feel like you're really activated in the front of you. So the arms don't need to be touching the ground, but they can be extended into like 45 degrees or more, or say hi to your plants. Once you're in this position, you're going to build tension in your entire body, and then we're going to let go of tension everywhere. We're teaching your body not how to just be tense all the time, but how to choose it and how to lose it. So in this long, kind of like a mountain pose in yoga, we're just on our backs, kicking the feet, hit that high note in your head, find that contraction, hold it, hold that anterior contraction, abdomen comes forward, hold those two, let your arms go overhead, reach as far as you can with the arms, kick the feet away from you, hold everything for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release and exhale. Do this a few times. You'll feel a lot of pressure, but it's good pressure. It feels necessary. You may feel inner thigh pressure, abdomen pressure, or the shoulder blades really working for you. It's all part of the practice. I know I talked a lot, but this was the full flow. You can spend as much time as you need to in any of these poses. Specifically then, just laying here, kind of scanning into meditation of what you've opened, what you've learned about yourself, maybe what you've observed or what you've judged within yourself. It's really challenging to go through positions looking for kind of something wrong and not letting it label you, not letting it say, this is why this happened to you in the past, or this is why we're not getting pregnant. So use these movements as medicine for understanding, for hope, for progress of a better future pregnancy, of a better future delivery, and try to move past labeling, oh, that's my bad hip, that was the side that didn't open, I had a cervical lip on that side. We have to get past a lot of these versions of ourselves to really fully embrace what we can become. So stay in that last quiet pose for as long as you want. It could be 45 minutes if you need to. But this entire flow, again, has been focused on unlocking stagnant parts of us, mobilizing them, learning how to rotate through the shoulders, learning how to find each segment of the spine, each pocket of air, and then the final stage was kind of gluing some of those things together. And that glue can be done in the tripod lunge when you're supporting your back. It can be done in standing, any type of yoga practice you're in. You can now apply these little audits, these little 3-part awareness scans in your normal routine at home. So kind of getting to the practice, the nitty-gritty of this is the flow, but it's recommended to do up to about 5 times a week. It does not need to be as tedious and as slow as we did it today. Once you find, the ones that you really like, you can just hit the 2 or 3 before you go to bed, after a long car ride, after a really sitting stagnant day at work. Up to 5 times a week can really help improve fertility in women because everything is pumping and flowing and moving correctly. You will shed what you need to, you will grow what you need to. Please reach out to me if you are going through anything like IVF. I want you to work obviously appropriately with your provider as well as this type of work, but we usually just recommend waiting 7 to 10 days after your transfer to allow your body to relax and just settle with your new fertilization, and then starting these up again as you see necessary. So thank you so much for being here for me. I'm very excited to share this with you and very hopeful for your journey through healing for motherhood, planning for motherhood, maintaining motherhood. It's a wonderful ride. So look forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you. Have a great day.